Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Kitchen Catastrophes with Melissa. Today we will be making potato soup. I have to admit, when I was looking over the recipe, it didn't quite end up being what I expected. So I hope this is the way it's supposed to go. I'm taking this straight from the Joy of Cooking. I bought this cookbook because it was one of the cookbooks my dad always used when we were growing up, and so it was one that I thought would be good because he was always the master chef in the house. So we're going to start off with my 2 medium potatoes. I do need to take quick paring, I guess is what they say. I always called it peeling, but they're calling it paring. So I'm going to pare and slice these potatoes real quickly. All right, and this is the last of the potato, one ran away, potato going into the pot. So the potato is all set. Now I mentioned my dad is the master chef, but my mom, she's master at baking. So kind of nice, we could kind of balance and share that. All right, to those potatoes, I am going to add 2 medium onions. The joy of cutting onions, right? Oh well. We can all use a good cry every now and then, right? All right. So into the pot goes the rest of our onion. I feel like there's almost more onion in here than potato. Good thing I like onion. No. Oh, there's some onion on the floor. I'm gonna have to do some sweeping later. Boy, am I being messy. Okay. The next thing we're going to add is going to be 4 ribs of celery. So I will get those cut up here for us. Ooh. Oh, there come the tears from the onion. That was late. I did not expect that then. Woo. Okay. All right. Well, we'll make it work. All right. So we'll get these celery all sliced up. Ooh, there's a little spot on there we're going to take off. And into the pot. Okay. And celery into the pot. Okay, so now I'm supposed to saute this in this pan with 1.5 tablespoons of butter. So I've got my Kerrygold. I like it because I feel like it has less things in it that we don't want. I don't know. Maybe I over worry about those things. I don't know. But I'd rather try to eat clean if I can, right? Yeah, until I decide I want some Taco Bell. All right. And then all bets are off. Probably should get that butter down to the bottom. I probably should have waited to put everything in until I got the butter in so it would be at the bottom, but you know. Why do things in an order that makes sense? This is a lot of vegetables for sauteing. Kind of wish my pot were bigger, but it's not, so we deal. All right, well, we'll saute this and I'll be back in a little bit. So I heard once the way to know that you were done with sauteing was when the onions were translucent. So we're not quite there, but we are nearing that point. There we go. All right, smells good. But then again, what doesn't smell good when you saute onion? And you know what? That is one of the benefits of COVID is you can eat as much onion as you want. And when you go places, you put on your mask and no one has to smell your breath. So those of us who love onion, and at least that one small thing. Yeah, I think we can call those fairly translucent at this point. All right, so now to this, I am supposed to add boiling water to cover. So I use my electric kettle here to boil up some water. This is the part that surprised me. I did not expect it to go like this. So. And then I think I drained this later in puree or something, which that also surprised me because I did not expect that either. All right, I think we can consider that covered. And at this point, I am supposed to add the salt. So I'm gonna stir. And now we boil this until the potatoes are tender. So I'm gonna put a lid on it and we'll be back in a little bit. Pause for a second, I almost forgot an ingredient. Good thing I looked on my countertop. I do need to add the bay leaf, and I was very excited. I got some fresh ones at the store, so should be very flavorful. All right, now we'll be back in a moment. Well, we're almost done boiling, and so thought I'd mention, as I was looking through the recipe, and I realized when it said after this step, the next step was to put them in the blender, I had the thought, do I drain the water or not? It doesn't say so in there, but I couldn't imagine that I would leave the water in. So I did hop on the internet real quickly and check in the recipe, this one from Better Homes and Gardens, and that one has us draining the water. So I'm gonna drain the water before I do the next step. I think that's the right choice because we are later adding in some cream anyway. So if I'm adding cream, but then there's water, then it's gonna be really, really thin. So I do think that the water needs to come out. All right, so I haven't yet told you a story today. And so I was deciding what story to tell you, and I decided today we get a dating disaster story. And this story, now mind you, the majority of my dating disasters, they all have their nicknames. And this one earned one as well. We call him Mr. Tries Too Hard. So the story of Mr. Tries Too Hard, this was back in the day when I was so fixated on needing to date someone that I was on a couple different of the internet sites like Match and eHarmony and Christian Mingle. I think those were the ones. If you do want to go, I will say that eHarmony actually probably did the best job of getting a good fit. Yeah, but anyhow, I guess they had the better algorithms. I don't know. But so this gentleman, we decided to schedule for to meet up in the afternoon at a coffee house because, well, internet dating, you got to be extra careful because you don't know anybody and you don't have anyone that knows them to be able to, save. Anyway, so we were meeting up at a Starbucks, and the trying too hard started immediately as he showed up wearing this really fancy suit. Now, as he's showing up in this very fancy suit to a coffee house, ooh, those are done. As he gets ready to have his seat, he makes sure to take off his jacket in such a way that I can see the Calvin Klein label. It definitely did not feel like it was accidental, that it was arrayed for me to see where it came from. So, Tries Too Hard, part number 1. We're gonna quickly drain this and then we'll get to part 2. All right, so now that it's drained, I am going to quickly remove the bay leaf because I don't think I'm supposed to puree that. So I'll set that aside. Now, it says to blend or puree, rice or blend, and I don't have a ricer and I don't have a blender. I do, however, have a completely non-electric processor of sorts. It's another Pampered Chef thing. Yeah, my friends and I definitely had a lot of Pampered Chef parties back in the day. And so I'm going to use it and see what happens. So it clearly won't be able to handle all of this at once because it, as you saw, was fairly small. So I'll put a little bit in, mix it up, and mush it up, and then transfer stuff whatnot, I think you can figure out. Okay, so Mr. Tries Too Hard then starts sharing, you do the questions like, what do you do, and all of that good stuff. And so he starts telling me about how he owns a couple of different McDonald's franchises, and he apparently, I think he also was a realtor. Told me about his extremely expensive home, like it was like a $2 million home or something like that. Somehow conveniently had paperwork to show pictures of this very impressive home. Also shared, apparently he was also very involved in playing polo, which, that's cool. But it was just, you could tell it was part of the whole, I'm trying to show off, and this seems like a kind of a fancier kind of sport to do and more prestigious sport or whatever. Okay, cool, whatever. I mean, it's nice when someone wants to show off for you a little bit. But then we start, besides the fact that had he actually, anyone who actually knows me would know that most of that stuff actually would definitely not impress me and might actually cause the opposite reaction from me. But anyhow, then he starts telling me about how he was a member of MDO when he was younger. If you don't know what MDO is, MDO was like the rebirth of Menudo. So anyone from my generation would know Menudo was like the new kids of the block from, I think they were from Mexico, but it was like the Latino new kids on the block. And there was kind of the thing where I think Ricky Martin, was at one point a member. But the idea was that after a certain point, they would age out and they would get replaced by another member. And then they had like a reboot years later and they called it MDO. Anyway, so he's like telling me about how he was a member of MDO. And I was like, okay, cool, But you see, the problem lies in that this is where we start getting into the area of telling things that can be verified or disproven. Okay, so he also tells me about how he writes music because, he doesn't already do enough stuff. So he was telling me about how he actually wrote a song for Rascal Flatts. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Again, something that is either, verifiable or not. But this is where it gets funnier. Because then he gives me a copy of the CD, which of course he just happens to have, and tells me about which tracks he wrote on. I'm like, great, okay, cool. I'll take a listen to this later. I'm not necessarily a huge country music fan, but, I'm willing to check something out if someone, he seemed fairly proud of it, and why not? By the way, I don't think I mentioned, but this guy, I think we'd have to say it was probably the prettiest guy I've ever gone on a date with. So, wasn't like, whatever. Anyhow, so, we have a nice time, and, I was like, maybe a second date, maybe not. I mean, it did seem like he tried too hard, but whatever. But I get home and I'm curious, and I'm like, let's check this out. So I look up Menudo, and I'm checking out like all the different machinations of, is that the word I want, machinations? I don't know. But anyway, all the different versions of who was in that group and the different lineups throughout the year. Is his name there? Of course not. But what I thought was even funnier is, you see, you tell me that you wrote something for Rascal Flatts, and then you give me the CD, which when I get home I put into computer and put in, open up iTunes, and iTunes shows me that the tunes that he said he wrote Oh, there's a whole bunch of writers. There's multiple lyricists, multiple composers of the music itself. His name is not there anywhere. So not only is he lying, but he's providing me with means of proof of the lying. And, you know, again, whatever, that in and of itself would lean towards a reason why you think, yeah, that might be a one and done kind of date thing. But, you know, still kind of sweet that he wanted to make sure to impress, whatever. But what put it over the edge of Mr. Tries Too Hard, and the reason that he was a one date only, was then he proceeded to call me on his way home and tell me about how he was already starting to think about what our children would look like. And at that point I was like, okay, I think we're good. I don't think we need to go on a second date. This is way too much. So anyhow, that was my one date with Mr. Tries Too Hard. Couldn't even tell you his name now, if I had to. Couldn't tell you what song he supposedly wrote for Rascal Flatts, although I do have the CD. But, you know, it's sweet that someone would, you know, try to put in a lot of effort to impress, at least. But, yeah, word to the wise gentleman, don't lie on dates. Be yourself. All right. All right. This is not going to be anything like what I think of when I think of potato soup. But I think it'll still be good. All right. Yeah, because the whole pureeing thing is not something I expected, but that's okay. All right. Okay, so from here, I'm supposed to beat in 2 tablespoons of butter. So let me make sure I get all of the potato and onion and celery into one container. And let's get some butter. There's 1, 2 tablespoons there. I think it's interesting that you add more butter now. But then again, potatoes and butter are usually a pretty good combination. Okay, then we're supposed to, once I get all this butter in here, thin this out with some light cream. But it just says thin the soup to the desired consistency. So again, sometimes it's probably not the best idea to kind of let me free without giving me really specific instructions on something. But yeah, we'll make it work. And then after that, this is kind of funny. The next thing it says is add if required. What does that mean? Add if required. Yeah, I don't know. But anyhow, on the list of add if required is salt and paprika. And I already put salt in before, so I'll probably hold off on salt. If I decide I want more salt, I can do that later. I will add some smoked paprika. And then it says a dash of Worcestershire. Nobody can say that. The Worcestershire sauce, which I will be omitting because that stuff, I believe, has sardines in it. It has some kind of fish in it, which even before being a vegetarian, never really a big fan of fish. Now, I didn't eat a lot of it growing up, but you know, we used to go fishing at Grandpa's pond, and which was that, and not just the pond, but out in the woods there were some kind of body of water out there. A marsh of some sort, maybe, I don't know. But anyhow, it was pretty much bluegill and catfish there. Okay, that's a little bit. Let's stir it up and see what we think. So anyhow, that was kind of my experience with, oh, I splashed myself. I mean, I'm sure we had some other kinds of fish at some point. But yeah, I never was a big fan of fish. Well, what do we think? I'll give you a look. Look at, ooh, I'm gonna spill it. Do I want a little bit more cream in there or not? Maybe a smidge more. So yeah, anyhow, we'll be adding the unpronounceable sauce. And then it says to serve it, I could, if I want, put parsley or chives or watercress or sliced frankfurters, that's not gonna happen, or chopped shrimp, that also will not happen, or diced cooked ham, yeah, that's not gonna happen either. However, I probably will serve it with cheese because I've been doing the whole order from the grocery store and then go pick it up, and you know, sometimes they do substitutions, and well, the cheese that I ordered, they apparently didn't have, so they substituted it with the same cheese but in a larger package. Package is bigger than my head. 2 pounds of cheese. Some of it is going to find its way to the freezer because clearly I'm not going to be able to eat 2 pounds of cheese before it goes bad. But yeah, anyhow, all right. Now the paprika, it also doesn't say how much paprika, so we'll go with that, and if I decide I want to add more paprika when I eat it, we can do that. Let's taste test to see if it's any good. Yeah, it's okay. It's definitely different than the potato soup my dad makes, so I wonder if my dad uses a different potato soup recipe. There might be more than one in here because there's a vichyssoise or leek potato soup. Maybe he does that one. I don't know. No, because that one doesn't have cream. Yeah, I don't know. But it's doable. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Kitchen Catastrophes with Melissa, and we'll see you next time. Bye.